Hey guys, and welcome back to Windsor Time. Today, I'm actually really excited about this. I spent a lot of time this morning researching and doing a deep dive. We're talking about one of my other interests and something you're interested in as
Absolutely.
well. We're
Yep.
talking about F1 drivers and their watches, and their actual watches, and then their sponsorship watches, and the whole world of how that works. But I think it's going to be a really good episode. So before we dive into that, Ben, what do you have on your wrist? How are you today?
I'm doing great.
I kind
How
of
are
just
you?
walked in. We set this up real
Yeah.
quick, but
Ready to rock and
yeah,
talk F1. I'm excited because, I feel like the watches change almost as frequently on people as some of the drivers change for the teams,
they
and
do.
some stay long term, and like some drivers stick with the team long term. So it's
Yeah,
exciting to see, and
absolutely.
oh man, everyone
You've
loves
been
F1.
to, you went
I
to
was in
Coda a
Yep.
couple years ago.
I
Yeah,
think 4 years ago now.
yeah,
It's
that's been a
flying by now.
while.
Maybe three. I'm trying.
Yeah, three or four. That sounds right.
But cannot wait to. That's the one and only F1 race I've been to, so I cannot wait to
Yeah,
go to another one, and we'll have to go to one together and
yeah.
shoot some footage out there. Pretty
What I
cool.
would imagine we're filming this in Charlotte, where the store is, and is it pretty similar to like NASCAR? Or I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding. I'm
it's
kidding.
it's
Yeah,
like NASCAR, but
yeah. No,
fewer turns.
no, just a joke. But anyway, what do you have on your wrist?
I am wearing my lovely Norcane Wild One Burgundy,
Nice.
gray and burgundy, and just love this watch. Super lightweight, fun. Kind of felt like, as much as it's not a chronograph stopwatch, racing watch, kind of reminded me of some of the RMs and Richard Milles that you see in
Absolutely.
the F1 world. In a weird way, though, I think Norcane for me is even more exciting than RM, as
Yeah,
cool as RM is. But
sure.
no, I just felt like it was fun, and it's a watch that kind of came out of nowhere for me. This
Yeah,
this particular watch wouldn't have been a color palette I originally thought I liked, and I wear this thing all the
yeah.
time. I love it. Fun, super lightweight, and just we've said this before on here, but just love what Norcane is doing. Yeah.
That's the one that Mark Wahlberg just went viral wearing as well in a
Mark,
different color,
Yep, he
right? It
did
was like an aquamarine.
the kind of like turquoise or
Yeah,
almost I don't want to say Tiffany color, but turquoise color piece, but same model. It's
yeah.
awesome, beautiful.
You have to wonder with a guy like that. Norcane is so cool, but the amount of like, how do you pick what watch you're gonna wear when you wake up in the morning? Being Mark, like he has the
I think
Patek minute repeater that just
yeah,
came out, and like so many pieces like that.
he has an unbelievable collection, and I think Mark probably almost suffers from having to wear. He wears so many unbelievable godlike watches out there
Yeah,
that all of a sudden putting on something that's more palatable like a Norcane. I mean, it's probably just fun for him.
yeah.
You
Well,
know,
and what a
fun.
testament to what Norcane is doing that that watch is in
Absolutely.
the
Yep.
conversation and was on his radar. So
Yeah, and he's worn it a couple. I've seen him wearing it a bunch of times,
yeah,
and trends and all that
absolutely.
stuff. And who knows? But
Yeah,
it's cool to see it on his wrist.
yeah.
How about you? What are you wearing?
So in the theme of what we're talking about today, and one of the drivers we're going to get into has a very similar watch to this. I am wearing my IWC Pilot Chronograph 41. It currently has a smudge on there, I just noticed.
Perfect.
But it's such a great watch, the Top Gun watch. I thought I wanted it in 43 initially, but the 41, it's really a 41.9, so it's more of a 42.
Yeah.
But yeah, great watch. Picked it up in late last year, and it's been a great one. So anyway,
It's an awesome watch, and yeah, a lot of IWC action within the F1 world, which I'm sure
yeah.
we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive into that. We have,
Let's
as you
do
can
it.
see, the laptop here, so we're gonna get kind of Ben's reactions, jeweler reacts, if you will, a little kind of Nico style video with some watches. So let's dive in. Let me pull up the first
See what
one
we
here.
got
So
here.
we're gonna start out with Max Verstappen. Obviously,
Never heard of him.
he's won a couple races recently. Didn't win the last one, but I think quite a few before that he did win, obviously. So we're gonna pull up his watches, and what's
Okay.
interesting, what we'll get into is, he's a Tag Heuer ambassador, but he also has some other stuff. So we're gonna
Cool.
pull up the first one here. So the first one we're gonna pull up is what he's been wearing primarily this season in 2024. It is the Tag Heuer Jack Heuer in 18
Very
karat
cool.
rose gold. Limited edition of 188 pieces to celebrate Jack Heuer's 88th birthday.
Check it out.
So
Oh
it is
yeah.
that. So
Very
very
cool.
cool. Ryan Gosling wearing a very similar one on a mesh bracelet right now.
Mm-hmm.
That has been cool since the Barbie movie came out. What do you think? Pretty cool.
I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
awesome, and I think it's a little bit outside the box of what you kind of think of when you think of F1 driver. For
Yeah,
me, it's like it's a sporty watch, but it's also kind of elegant, kind of conservative, kind of.
for sure.
I mean, has that panda-esque dial, but it's definitely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And it's not overly massive in size or anything like that. It's a good choice.
That's very cool. What Tag has done with watches like this in the glass box, I think is really great. The direction that they're going, they've done some really not so great designs, which we'll get to in a little while. I can say that. You can't say that. I can say that. But okay, so first one down. So let's go on to the next one. So the next one is not going to be a Tag Heuer. It's going to be something you can probably speak very well to.
Ah, yes.
Patek Philippe, Aquanaut, White
Yeah.
Gold, Travel Time.
5968.
What do you think?
Chronograph. Yeah,
Chronograph.
Not the travel time, the
Oh,
chronograph.
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I love it. Kind of like the modern sports watch you almost imagine someone like Max wearing, but
Yeah.
same thing. It's kind of conservative in its own way. They're very much a statement piece and just awesome. And being a chronograph, I mean, that falls right into that racing, lifestyle.
It does.
And
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I
Killer
can see
watch.
it.
Okay, going back to Tag, we have a Monaco in titanium.
Super cool. Yeah.
Killer watch.
Yeah.
The Monaco for me has always been one that I've wanted, but every time I put it on, it's a little bit big.
Yeah.
But this in titanium, I would imagine it wears obviously quite a lot lighter than the steel versions.
I've always been like that too with Monaco. It's like I appreciate every single one when I see it in
Yeah.
the case or I see it on someone else's wrist, and it's hard. I have yet to find the one that's perfect for Ben Simon. That's perfect for me.
Yeah.
I have not tried this one on. I have tried on. There's a blackout version of it that's
Yeah.
super cool with once again kind of a turquoise
Yeah.
motif, and same watch though, and just awesome. And that is kind of what I picture when I see young modern F1
Absolutely.
racer, like sponsored or partnership. That's like the perfect fit for
It
that.
is. And I think a theme that we're going to see through a lot of these watches is that very technical driven skeletonized style. This one I'd written a couple of notes. Pays tribute to the Tag Heuer Monaco original color scheme,
But in a different way.
in a different way, in a modern way, and then obviously has those red and white highlights. But a very cool watch, and I think perfect for Max.
Totally.
Okay, so the next one that we have is Sir, as of I think last year or before, Lewis Hamilton, someone who has made quite a lot of splashes in the industry. Obviously, going from this is last year at Mercedes into Ferrari. What'll be interesting is he has been, face of IWC, all these
Yes.
incredible things. IWC is obviously a partner with Mercedes-Benz,
Yeah.
their F1 team. So him moving next year will be incredibly interesting to see if there is a limited edition Richard Mille Hamilton edition.
You would almost imagine something's coming out in that world, or they would take advantage of that. And then also, what does that mean for IWC? And there's been a lot of speculation around that, even though IWC is a partner with the team either way. But there's been so much emphasis on Lewis, so it's kind of an interesting change of
It is.
which obviously they knew could happen or might happen. So
Definitely.
no question there. But
Let's get into some
man.
of his.
I mean, few people show watches off better
sure.
than Sir Lewis
So
Hamilton.
this image that we have on
Yep.
screen now is just the definition of him the last couple of years. Incredibly defined, incredibly just trying to break the mold and be loud. The FIA, essentially the governing body,
Yep.
had a regulation against wearing jewelry. So what does Lewis do? He goes and puts on
Stacks.
3 watches, all the chains, everything. You gotta love it. But the first watch that we're going to look at is the Big Pilot, a perpetual calendar edition that they made for him, I think, back in 2019. Incredible
That is
watch, just beautiful with, I think it's a rose gold crown, it looks like. You can see him modeling the watch here. I mean, just
very Lewis Hamilton.
so cool. That's an incredible watch. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's an incredible watch, and it's wild how often you see him wearing a Big Pilot, and it goes with the just the mantra of Big Pilot, because he's not a big dude,
No,
and yet
not at
he
all.
wears a Big Pilot so well at 46 millimeter, and it just goes to show like that watch is designed to have a big look.
Yeah.
And it's all about confidence when you wear that watch. I love that design. We talked about red watches on an earlier episode, and
Yeah.
it's more of like a burgundy, but even though we feel like
beautiful.
we see them, you don't see them all the time. We're gonna talk about another red watch in a bit, I think, too.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah,
I love
killer watch. So let's bring up the next one. Next one we have is the very similar to what I'm wearing, but different color. The IWC Pilot Chronograph 41,
Yep.
Mercedes AMG F1 edition. We will bring that up.
Yeah.
Very loud watch, very different from the subtle
This-
all black that I have. But
This watch is really the one that, as a watch dealer, and ambassador for not ambassador, but dealer for IWC. This was the one that caused the most waves when it
Yep.
first launched for us, because it did launch as
Absolutely.
I think an online only watch. We now sell it,
Yeah.
and it has been one that has just been if not the top selling piece for IWC, one of the best sellers, and
Yeah.
very in tune with the team.
It is.
So it's
It is.
hard to miss, and obviously you can see once again we've talked about this kind of colorway a couple times already on this episode, and that's just been you see more and more of this in different brands, and the AMG relationship just makes a lot of sense for it.
It's very cool, and I think as we're looking through this, there's Patek, there's Richard Mille, you kind of see the same thing over and over, but with IWC over the last couple of years, at least for me as a collector, I've noticed an uptick in that interest, and I think it's so refreshing to see. Obviously, I have several Rolexes, you have several Rolexes, we love those watches, but to get just a fresh perspective and to see something else than the same 10 to 15 watches you see on social media nonstop. When this watch popped off, I was incredibly happy just because it was something fresh.
Yeah, it reminds me too, as crazy as this is to say, it reminds me of early launch Bell and Ross pieces, like
Absolutely.
post Sen relationship, but early actual square Bell and Ross was very much, okay, we're going to throw a light blue colorway against black, we're going to throw a red against black and orange again, and that was what they were known for. And then it kind of fell off for a while, not the brand, but that idea of that colorway.
Sure.
And it has come back big time in
Incredible.
popularity.
Incredible.
Bell and Ross was ahead of their time.
They were. So the last one here, and we're going to see, again, another theme of, they have their ambassador watch and then their real watches.
Yeah.
Better
There you
photo
go.
right here.
Yeah.
What do we have here? What are we looking at?
So that is the Patek Philippe 5740 1G perpetual calendar Nautilus and solid white gold, which is just an unbelievable watch and
Killer.
just hard to beat. And once again, probably the watch Lewis is wearing in his free time. That's not a sponsorship piece, obviously, and just something he chooses to own because it is kind of a collector's true collector's piece, and just hard to say anything negative about that watch.
It is
just awesome.
absolutely beautiful.
Love that thing.
There you go. And he had a couple of other, him and actually Max both have, yellow gold Daytonas and stuff like that too. It almost has to be hard. I remember I was watching a video of Kevin Hart, who's an AP ambassador, and he did a video of his watch collection. It's just APs.
Yeah.
And he even mentioned, it's incredible. And I think as watch guys, we kind of dream of, it'd be so incredible to be a brand ambassador for XYZ brand.
Yeah.
But man, is that really limiting? You can have everything, and then you get it all, and you're only in that one vein. So it's interesting to see, that they have their public persona watch, and then these watches.
There's another interesting topic, which I'm almost afraid to bring up on here as a Rolex ORJ, but Rolex is F1. I mean, they're everywhere at F1 at the scale of overarching F1 and Formula One, and almost all of these drivers have many Rolexes. They own their own Rolexes. They wear them in their spare time, but you rarely see F1 drivers getting as much attention wearing a Rolex as you do some of these other brands.
Sure.
And a lot of that's because of sponsorship, but other times it's because Rolex is a little more conservative and they do things in a less flashy way, and some of the other brands need a little bit more of that flash to stand out.
Sure.
I just think it's an interesting observation, because I don't know if we're even going to talk about one Rolex on here today.
I don't think there is. And part of that
They
is
all-
they don't sponsor an individual team.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere else. So all over the track, everywhere. Which is, I think it's a cool marketing move.
They are. It's hard to watch F1 without seeing
I know.
the crown.
I think it's impossible. It is impossible.
They do a good job.
All right, moving on to Michael Schumacher, obviously a legend, and stepping back. But
Let's see what we got.
this is a very mid-2000s, 2010 AP offshore. There's some really nice AP offshores. Not to speak ill of this one, but
Oh yeah. Look at
man,
that.
is it ugly, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, this came
is,
out 2010.
It reminds me of some of the Arnold Schwarzenegger collaborations of
Equally
and
as
I think
bad.
about the same time frame probably too.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone.
So let me read off. There was, with this watch, it was a 44 millimeter case, which for the offshore is massive. A 42 millimeter offshore is massive. So it was massive, and then it had those huge pushers. But not only was it that, it had a titanium model, which they made 1,000 pieces. It had a pink gold version, which there was 500 pieces.
Yeah.
And then there was a platinum edition of 100 pieces. Let me bring this back up.
That's the titanium,
Can you imagine,
right?
this is titanium.
Yeah.
that watch in 44 millimeters in platinum with a rubber strap, so you
Yeah,
have a very top-heavy watch.
That is a big watch in platinum for sure. And I mean, you know, it wouldn't be the biggest watch in the world, but the kind of pusher elements there. But I mean, it is a cool watch at the end of the day.
yeah.
It's a statement piece, very AP, you know, and
is a
it's very AP from that exact time period, you know.
Yeah,
So
which, but anyway, moving on to a positive watch that I have something nice to say about, and actually one that I would love for my personal collection. We have, so this would have been early 2000s. He was an ambassador for Omega,
Gotcha,
and we have this incredible
Yeah.
red dial
Yep.
with the subtle yellow accents throughout, Omega Speedmaster Reduced.
I love that. And that just
love that.
screams racing. That
Yep.
just screams, you know, not necessarily Formula One, but just very in that world. No,
It is.
No question. I mean,
It's classy, it's interesting, it's not god awful ugly. So I think it has a lot going
and
for
it's
it.
timeless. I mean, that
It
even,
is.
even with a bright red and yellow, almost McDonald's-y dial, it's still
Yeah.
quite timeless.
It's great.
you know?
It's one, like I said, I've
yeah.
been on the lookout for. There's a few of them out there, and I really love it. He also, in Omega form, they did a million of them, so he also had a couple more versions. We'll put
In
this
different
version up.
colorways, right?
Yeah, so there was a yellow version, and then you can
Yeah.
kind of see this one with some kind of accents there. It's cool. It does less for me than the red, but I think
Maybe
it
the most
is.
wearable though, but less
Probably.
less
Yeah.
less of a story on the. I mean, equal story, but less of a pop
Yeah.
on the wrist. Yeah.
Absolutely. So moving on,
I like
to
those a lot more than the
god awful
Terminator style
Yeah.
AP. Yeah.
Look,
Just
there's-
just our take.
Yeah, just my take. If AP called and offered me a watch tomorrow, of course I would. I'd become the biggest fan of it. And
No.
well, not that
You're never
one,
getting
but
an
there are
AP
other
now.
stuff.
You're never getting.
I wasn't
never
in the
getting
first
the call.
place. So, moving on to the next one, we have Senna.
All right.
So Senna had built a relationship with Tag Heuer from 1988 up until his death in 1994. And the two watches we're going to look at were his personal watches that he owned up until his death. And they were auctioned off in 2007 as a pair for $69,000.
Wow.
What do you think?
I mean, you know, right on the money for the time.
Yep.
And you know, very Tag Heuer, and
Yeah.
I'd love to see like a redux of one of these in a modern way somehow. Which
It would be very
It
interesting.
seems like a tough thing to do, but I bet you they could do it in a way that
It is.
that would hit home.
It's
you know?
it's interesting, again, not to be too negative this episode. You have to think of watches in their time period,
Yeah.
and if you think of it in their time period, I'm sure they're incredible.
Yeah.
How they've aged now isn't great, but they are cool. There's a lot of
Yeah.
the Mercedes hands.
When you think of it, I mean, you've seen this on Senna's wrist, and so
Yeah.
so many iconic photos and everything,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of it seems like it'd be weird for him not to have something like that
Yeah,
on the wrist.
and to be able to own that for, I would say, obviously, basically $70,000 or $80,000 once you have the buyer's premiums. That is a lot of money, but to own a set of those watches that he had on his wrist,
Yeah.
I think is an incredible deal.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Regardless of what you think of the design or not.
Yep.
Going off of that, Tag Heuer also likes to make a lot of editions. So there were many different editions of that, but in 2015, they did a kind of comeback series watch of the Carrera Caliber 16 chronograph F1 edition.
Yep.
Here it is. The Senna is quite on the nose, I think, in terms
Yeah.
of the branding, but overall, a nice watch, a very nice watch.
Yeah, very cool. And then in that image, we've got that once again that leather strap
Yeah.
version showing up. And then we were talking about this, I think earlier, but I remember selling this watch or having this watch for sale at least as a Tag Heuer dealer, and then. There was another very bold red and black, almost rubberized bracelet version of it that
Yeah.
was wild because it had red. It was heavy striations between the links and just really, really in your face colorway, but super cool watch that stands out and very, Senna, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah, very, very cool. But a couple of great watches, I would say, from Tag Heuer.
So cool.
Moving on to modern day,
Oh, boy.
we have. Do you know what Daniel Ricciardo's nickname is? Not to put you on the spot.
Honey Badger?
It is, yeah, very good. Honey Badger.
Uh-huh.
We're moving. Yeah, it's funny. It's pretty well known. So we have a couple watches from him, and something that's interesting to note here is he now races for Visa, Cash App, Red Bull. he raced for Red Bull before, so he's
Yep.
had, and then McLaren as well, which is where I became a fan of McLaren. Incredible person, probably one of the best personalities in F1, I would say currently.
For sure. He's a funny guy and lots of energy. And I think, I mean, it's easy to talk about the Netflix series, but people
Yeah.
on the entry point of F1 have loved following his arc. And
Absolutely.
it's easy, arc to follow kind of
Yeah.
compared to someone you've had to kind of dive deeper into
Yeah.
technically or something. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting. I don't know if there's any way for us to know them, but when they move between teams, if they get to keep some of the watches,
yeah.
I would love to know because we're going to talk about a couple of incredible ones.
I feel like we may never know unless they show up with them a couple years later and they're still wearing this.
Probably not.
And it's I imagine most of the time it's team watches or
Yeah.
sponsorship watch.
I could see that. But the first one we're going to talk about is actually one that's not on Tudor's website yet. But it is this one. So you have a ceramic
Yep.
case blue dial. Really incredible. Both him and Yuki have been photographed wearing it. We're looking at a Tudor image right now they use for advertising. So incredible watch. I mean, the Black Bay is just a classic at this point. But yeah, what are
Black
your
Bay
thoughts?
ceramic. I mean, we've sold the kind of stock version of this for a few years now, and it's an amazing watch from the jump there. But then you
Absolutely.
throw this kind of pretty unique. I mean, the relatively colorway specific to their team color on it,
Yep.
and it's a whole different ball game, really.
It is.
and it's a fun color that you actually don't see out there in the watch world. It's not bright blue. It's not purple. It's not. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost lavender. I mean, it's I don't know if there's a specific color code for that, but it's
Yeah. No, it's incredible.
awesome. It is, people have been going crazy over it, inquiries, et cetera, et cetera. It is currently a team watch, so
Yeah.
yet to be seen if anything's going to come out for actual distribution on that
Yeah.
watch. But it is so cool.
Super,
The
super
ceramic
cool.
case is awesome.
Now, going to
Oh, boy.
the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So during his time at McLaren, obviously Richard Mille is the sponsor of that team.
Yep.
What we're going to be looking at is the RM50-03 Tourbillon split-second chronograph ultralight McLaren F1.
It's an easy name to remember.
I mean, that's in the world of Richard Mille, which is already out there. A three-hander is crazy, but
Yeah.
this,
Yeah, that's
I mean, it's wild.
It's a lot.
It's wild. Yeah, super cool.
It is super cool. I always have to take a step back with Richard Mille because it's not
Yep.
like I don't understand it, but it is such a niche brand, yet it gets so many eyes, and it's not really that niche in terms of attention, but in terms
Yeah.
of the actual wearability and the end user, it's very limited production, very niche,
Hugely.
and rarely do you even get to have one on the wrist to even experience it. But
Yeah.
that's quite a package there.
It's it's such an odd juxtaposition because you have this incredibly complicated watch in essentially, bear with me,
yeah.
a plastic case.
Yeah.
Of sorts, really. I mean,
Yeah.
a plastic case and then with a a fabric textile stretchy strap, and you're looking at, I think the estimate on this watch, it's not even a real thing. It's a McLaren version, and there's like probably 3 of them.
Strap's really interesting.
It
so
is.
is it like an elastic strap?
It is it's a stretch thing.
Because it tapers,
Yeah, there's nothing.
It tapers
Yeah,
immediately.
if you kind of zoom in,
Okay,
you can
yeah,
see it's like
yeah.
it's like an Apple.
shows you
Watch.
how much attention I've paid to this actual watch. But
Yeah.
it's okay. I see,
Well, there's like
yeah.
5 of them, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
But you're looking at $1 million watch,
Mm-hmm.
roughly. That's impossible to know because again, there's so few of them. But it is fascinating, just how complex that is. The next guy we're going to talk about is why I would probably never want to own one. But yeah, I think a very, very cool watch.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly cool. Remains to be seen what is Richard Mille going to be in 20, 30, 40 years, and
Yeah.
that's a topic for another day. But
Sure.
it's definitely always on my mind when I look at Richard Mille because it's
Yeah.
so cool and it makes sense now, but timelessness wise and true collectability, the
Yeah.
rarity factor is there.
It is.
And whether the rarity
Hugely.
factor is there, it's very much, in my opinion, there out of by design.
It
than
is.
It is out of having to actually produce the items. But
Yeah, and
But
we have
definitely
friends. We have friends
Yeah.
who have those watches,
Yeah.
and they are very. It is mind blowing. This is a fairly large watch, as you can see on his wrist.
does look pretty big,
But it's.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably weighs nothing.
yeah, Yeah.
So
No,
it's
they're
very
cool. They're cool in person. I mean, they have
Yeah.
their place.
They do. So moving on, Mr. Carlos Sainz Jr.
Yeah.
Ferrari, sweetheart until next year when they got rid of him, even though he just won a race for them. He's actually won the last 2 races for them over the last couple of years. In 2023, he had made headlines after the Italian GP in Milan when someone stole his Richard Mille and
Yeah.
he then chased them down.
Chased them down.
This is the watching question. This is the RM, where I thought I made a note of it somewhere. I guess I didn't make a note of it. We'll put the exact name on the screen.
6702.
Yeah,
Just
something
keep
like
it
that.
on the file. See, I like that.
That is cool. Super
I like
thin.
the low key. I mean, it's not low key. It's certainly not a low key watch, but the actual like platform of that,
Yeah.
I think is thinner on the wrist and
It is.
kind of like a just wearable.
Yeah.
I like that.
And something that I remember when that happened that was not noted was that he chased down the guy along with his bodyguard. And I think this is a very interesting topic of discussion. You always have to use your best discretion in situations.
Yep.
Were it me, Noah Williams with no bodyguard, I don't know that I'm chasing somebody down that steals my watch. First off, they're all insured. Don't jump me, but they're all insured. But it's incredible to have him chase somebody down, and it's a very public thing.
Especially as essentially a celebrity. I mean,
It
it's
is.
not, that shouldn't matter, but like you would think he would. I think it just goes back to his competitive nature. I mean,
Sure.
especially Sainz seems like a very competitive,
Yeah.
aggressive driver, and I think that probably played into, hey, I'm going to go get my watch back,
Yeah.
versus someone else is like, I'll write that off and get
Yeah,
it insured.
absolutely.
So
But
probably,
it is
probably a
interesting.
personality thing at the end of the day.
It is. And the year before we saw, a year before, or maybe last, I can't remember what season it was, but same thing happened to Lando Norris. You know,
Yeah.
he had a limited edition, Richard Mille as well, McLaren, blah, blah, blah. And it got stolen. And that is a very real concern. Even for those guys, I think the ultimate story is it's crazy to see with security, with all the things that they have.
Someone is trying to
These
steal
things
it
still
off
happen.
of a
Yeah.
F1 driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can put on your tinfoil hat, and it could be a deep level Richard Mille marketing ploy.
That's actually not that crazy.
Just saying.
And on that note, thank you guys for watching this week. Those were some of our favorite, or I guess my favorite watches that I wanted to get your reaction to. I think there's some
very
incredible
cool.
stuff. The tie between watches and racing is, it's been around forever. So I think it's cool to see, in F1 what they wear, both on the track and behind the scenes.
I think we're going to see even more interesting pieces coming out over
Usually.
the next couple of years. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
no question.
Absolutely. Well, as always, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.